Jen's Hedge is going into the kitchen today, and we are going to show you how we make kombucha. Oh, need help. Help. The first thing you're going to need if you make kombucha is a kombucha starter, or a SCOBY, a symbiotic culture of bacteria and yeast, right? Yeah. The best way to get that is to know a friend who already makes kombucha and get it from them. If you don't know anyone who makes kombucha already, that's okay. You can start with a store-bought bottle of kombucha. It takes a little bit longer to get started if you go that route, but it works. I've done it. Let's get to the kitchen. This thing right here, I use a 5-gallon carboy. I make 3-gallon batches. So there's about a gallon of liquid down here. And then I fill it up with 3 gallons, and then there's usually about a gallon of unused space worth at the top. We're gonna need 3 ingredients: 3 gallons of water, 3 cups of sugar, and 42 grams of green tea. If you want, you can use black tea or a combination, oolong, whatever you want. You don't want to pour it in here when it's hot. You don't want it any more than 80 degrees or so. To make it cool down faster, what we do is we make a concentrated tea and then mix that with water. So rather than boiling 3 gallons of water, we're going to boil 1/4 of that. So 1/4 of 3 gallons is 3/4 of a gallon. So that's what I'm going to get first. Okay, now that we got our water in the pot, we're going to turn that on and wait for it to come to a boil. And while we do that, we're going to measure out our tea. I read in a book, I used to use a recipe that was 13 grams of tea per gallon. I like to use a little more than that. So I usually do 42 grams of tea for my 3-gallon batch. Give or take. And you know, you can just put it in there loose if you want and filter it out at the end, but it's kind of easier to use something like this. Makes it a little quicker and easier. But now we gotta wait for this to come to a boil. Alright, so we don't need a full rolling boil, just start of a simmer works. So I'm going to turn that off and put my tea in and set the timer for 20 minutes. I know that's longer than you would normally brew tea, but this is for kombucha. You want to get all those tannins out of there. You want that bitterness to come out because, I don't know, I read that somewhere, so I do it. And now all we have to do is wait 19 more minutes. Okay, time's up. Take a look at that. Come in here, get a look at that.
Nice.
Nice deep golden amber. So I'm gonna pull my sack out here and squeeze out as much as I can get.
Those bitter tannins coming out.
Yep, that may or may not be helpful.
I think they are.
But that's my tradition. You know, like a lot of things with kombucha, there's a lot of hearsay and people do it a certain way and they think it's really important, and maybe it is. I've already got my sugar pre-measured out here. You want to stir it in while it's still hot so it mixes up easily. So I'm going to pour that out.
Dissolves.
And you just stir that in until it's all dissolved. Alright, that should about do it. So I have my hot, concentrated sugary tea that I'm going to pour into just the room temperature water. And so now, that should be ready to pour right into my existing kombucha SCOBY. Take the cloth off the top. And here comes the moment of truth. This part is always a little bit nerve-wracking, pouring 3 gallons of sweet tea into here. Here we go. So we want to leave it, have a cloth on there to keep any bugs or any debris out, but also allows the exchange of gases. And let this sit here on the counter for probably test it after about 5 days or so. It depends on the time of the year, it depends on how warm it is. I use more starter liquid than a lot of people, and that makes it go quicker. Each batch goes quicker that way. So we'll see. We are back. It's been 7 days that this kombucha has been brewing, and we're gonna try it.
Oh, beautiful, beautiful.
How does it taste?
All right.
It's good. I think it's ready. When the kombucha brews, of course, when it starts, it's very, very sweet. And then as it ages longer and it becomes more sour and more vinegary. So you're looking for a nice balance. You want to get rid of most of that sugary flavor, but I like to leave it a little sweet. But you don't want to let it go too long or it'll just taste like vinegar. Sometimes we like to bottle it straight from the tap here as is, and it's delicious just like that. Sometimes we like to add in whatever sort of fresh fruit or vegetables. Well, not really vegetables most of the time, we'll see. But herbs, juice, any sort of flavoring agent that would be good in kombucha, we add it in there and let it sit for a while and do a second ferment.
Tonya, you want some kombucha?
Well, here's some mint right outside the door. Let's do some mint. All right, that's probably enough mint. Let's go get some basil. Here's the basil. So I like to pick off any flowering heads first. He's gonna pick up all the flowering tips of the basil. You know, some people say you should top off your basil plants before they get to the flowering stage because they get too bitter. But, you know, I don't mind a little bit of bitterness. Not so bad. Maybe if you're making pesto, maybe you don't like it so much. But in the kombucha, I like a little bit of bitterness, I think is good.
How do those smell, Sasha? That good, eh?
Want any blueberries?
Can you hold my wet sock? Huh? That's a weird spider. I mean, ladybug.
Put a few jostaberries in there, maybe. A jostaberry is a cross between a gooseberry and a currant. Look like that. Can we do a lavender one?
Yeah.
Sure. Lavender.
Okay. All right, let's go inside and see what we can do with this stuff.
No, I'm filming. I'm going outside the 100 times.
Rich Garden Bounty.
go ahead and let these sit for 2 or 3 days, and then we'll bottle them up.
Into the scoby.